There we go. Sometimes the streaming software wants to act up and doesn't activate my mic properly. Hello, welcome to this webinar. We're going to be doing one of my favorite webinars, which is buying a new computer or buying technology, really, because we'll focus on computers, but we're also going to be talking about other types of technology. So if you have any questions about cameras or measuring devices or software or whatever, I'll be happy to answer them for you. Now, if you've never done one of these webinars before on YouTube, well, this is a good a time as any to start. Along the bottom, if you're on the desktop version, I should say, if you're on the computer version, not the mobile or the tablet version, there'll be a little bar at the bottom, and there'll be two icons. One is a set of brackets that will make the video go full screen, which is great. You're going to be able to see everything a lot better, but you are going to lose the ability to use the chat, which right now by default should be over on the right-hand side. But if you use the elongated rectangle icon on the toolbar at the bottom of the video, that'll put it into theater mode, and you'll be able to see everything a lot better, but you won't lose the chat. It will be moved down to the bottom. Please use that chat to ask any questions you have. I love answering questions for everybody. If you don't have a YouTube account, or if you're not signed in, or if you don't want to use the chat, if you want to be a little bit more low key, you can always send me an email. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. training@sfrep.com. You can also use this if you have any questions about your setup that you may want to purchase. And I'm not going to put it onto the screen because it can get harvested and then I start getting spam phone calls. But I will give you my office number. Now, I wouldn't call me because chances are when you call, I'm not going to be available to answer. But we use a voice over IP. We work from home. Obviously, I'm at home. We use what's called a VoIP system, a voice over IP system. It's an internet phone. So if you use my office number, you can actually text me photos, ask about any questions you might have about any computers that you're seeing out in the field as you're doing your search for computers. That number is area code 828-919-9082. 828-919-9082. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Just go ahead and text me photos when you're out looking at Best Buy, wherever you want to do. All right. So buying a new computer. it can be very confusing. And the computer market has changed quite a bit just in the last 2 years. One of the cool things is it's gotten cheaper. One of the things that hasn't been affected by the rise in inflation is technology. It's actually gotten cheaper. And you can get a really well spec'd out laptop now for $300, $400. However, there are some caveats with that, and I'm going to go over those with you. But let's first start looking at just the raw data, just the raw numbers on what SFREP recommends for running Appraise-It Pro. All right. So we'll go over those real quickly. Now, these are recommended specs. You can go below or above this. Always go above if you can afford it. You're just going to future-proof your computer that way. So processor. There are 2 processor makers out there. There's AMD and Intel. The cool thing is they've brought their numbering scheme, their model numbers, into parity for their processors. So a Ryzen 5 is a Core i5. So the way that I like to kind of give you a crash course on processors, there's what they call the core line of, it's what Intel calls the core line of processors. AMD calls it their Ryzen processors. And these are the core processors. Now, these processors are what are called system on a chip. So they're different from older processors. Everything is just on one chip. The USB controller, the graphics, the processor, memory controller, all that stuff, hardware, the hard drive controller, all that stuff's on one chip. It's on the processor chip. Now, the system on a chip, they come in numbers. And the higher the number, the better the processor, the more fast it's going to be. So it starts at 3, then goes to 5, then goes to 7, and then goes to 9. So a Core i3 or a Ryzen 3 is aimed at the home user. You know, the mom and pop who just want to do their taxes and occasionally send an email and watch some video. Above that is the Ryzen or the Core i5, so the level 5 processor. It's aimed at power home users and business users. Jump up to the 7, Core i7 or the Ryzen 7. Now you're at power business users or gamers. And then when you go up to the Ryzen 9 or the Core i9, now you're in solely gamer territory. So don't go out there looking for a 9. You don't need it. That is way overkill. And it's only going to be available in a gaming laptop, which is going to be really nicely spec'd, but it's going to be really heavy and really bulky, and you're not going to want to carry it around. It's going to be really loud too, because the fans are exceedingly loud on those things. Okay. Let's go back to our specs. So what we recommend is there in the middle, aimed at the business user, the Ryzen 9 or the Core i5. It will, Appraise-It Pro will run just fine on a Ryzen 3 or a Core i3. It'll definitely run on a 7, no problem at all. But go for that middle ground, the 5. RAM, 8 gigabytes of RAM. Since I have done these specs, I've started to lean a little bit more towards recommending 16 gigs if you can find it. Right now, when you go out into the mid-range laptops, they're going to be 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. But 8 gigs is what you're going to find kind of the most often. And that's more than enough. Don't worry. But I would like to see 16. It just gives you a little bit more future proofing. But 8 is more than enough. Don't worry about it. Don't stress on that for sure. Storage, 256 gigs of solid state storage. I used to really hammer this home, make sure you're getting SSD or solid state storage. But now if you're buying a brand new computer, hard drives aren't a thing anymore. I don't even think they make them anymore. Well, they don't make them for laptops. Everything out there is going to have solid state drive. And if you're wondering what a solid state drive is, an older, computer from a couple years ago would have had a hard drive, which is we've had for years and decades. It's a mechanical spinning platter with little fiddly bits going all over the place in a vacuum. They are a nightmare. They're slow, and being mechanical, they can break easily. So they're not that reliable. Solid state drives, SSD, that is chip-based storage memory, kind of like flash memory, basically. So it's much more reliable, and it is wicked fast. It's the difference between, it's the thing that the computers have added to themselves in the last few years that has made the biggest difference in speed, especially perceived speed. So on a hard drive, it might take you, and you'll probably remember this, it would take you a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes to get to the desktop when you're first booting up in the morning. With an SSD, you're at the desktop ready to go probably in less than 20 seconds. It's that quick. So huge deal. But pretty much all computers now come with a solid state drive. 256 gigs is what we would recommend. If you can get 512 or 1 terabyte, go for it. The more storage, the better. Storage is becoming cheaper. I don't know why the laptop manufacturers have not just put terabyte SSDs into their computers. They're not expensive, but for whatever reason, they don't. I think they just want to differentiate their higher end laptops from the lower end laptops. But it is starting to become more common, even in the mid-range, for you to see 512 instead of 256. But I would say if this laptop is going to be a secondary computer that you just take out in the field with you, or that you take on vacation or when you travel, 256 is fine. If it's going to be your desktop replacement, and we'll get into that you can do that now with laptops, go with the 512 at least. Keyboard, you're going to want to make sure that it has a 10 key on it. A 10 key, if you look at your desktop keyboard, the number key on the right hand side, that's your 10 key. On a laptop that's less than 15.6 inches, you're going to lose the 10 key. Some 15.6s you lose the 10 key as well. But 15.6 inch laptop and above, and 15.6 is kind of your base laptop. If that and above, you're going to get the 10 key. 10 key is important. You guys are typers. You do a lot of numbers. You're going to want to have that 10 key. So make sure you have it. The other thing I would say is make sure, avoid the temptation to just buy blindly on Amazon. Go into a Best Buy, go into a Staples or an Office Depot, and actually try out the laptop. Because you guys type for a living. Try out the keyboard. Now, it's going to feel weird because it's going to be a different keyboard. Just remember, muscle memory will eventually kick in. But check the key travel. Check how it feels. See if it bows, if it feels mushy. You're not going to want to use that. So, if anything, don't skip on the keyboard because you guys use that a lot. All right. And finally, connections. You're going to want to make sure that the computer has USB-C. At this point, new computers pretty much all now have USB-C. That is just, you're going to have it. And if you don't know what USB-C is, you probably are in the Apple ecosystem. Although the iPhone 15 now has USB-C. USB-C is just a different connector. It's still USB, but it's a different connector for USB. And it's going to eventually replace what's called USB-A, which... that's USB-A, the classic USB that we've had for years and years and years. But USB-A is still very ubiquitous, and your laptop's going to come with both. Also, you notice that this one has blue in it. See, it has blue right there, the little plastic piece. That denotes that it is a USB 3.1 device, so it's going to be extra fast. Once again, every laptop's going to have USB 3.1 at this point. But the cool things about USB-C, you can hammer way more data through the pipeline, and it can provide a lot more power. So I have an external monitor. Actually, I'm taking it with me to ACTS this week. So if you're going to be in Colorado Springs for the ACTS show, you can take a look at it. I have an external monitor, and it's able to both get the video signal and the power it needs from the laptop through the USB port, the USB-C port. There's also small little dongles that you can get now. They'll plug into the USB-C port and allow you to break out extra USB ports, an Ethernet port for wired networking, extra HDMI ports if you want to put multiple monitors on there, and it can provide power to and from the laptop. So you can actually plug your charger into one of these little dongles, then plug the dongle into the computer, and it basically turns the computer into a desktop. So they don't really have docking stations anymore. They just have these little dongles. So you plug it in, it's going to make your external monitors work, your external keyboard, your external mouse. Everything is just going to work. Plus it's going to charge your laptop at the same time. So it's just kind of this utopic, great connector that just does everything and can provide, I think right now, 200 watts of power, which is ridiculous. So, all right. I think that's everything. Let's look back at that. So Ryzen 5 or Intel Core i5, 8 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of RAM if it's going to be your desktop replacement, 256 gigs of solid state storage, 512 if it's going to be your primary computer. Make sure you have that 10 key area on the keyboard and test out the keyboard. Make sure it feels good. And then your connections, you're going to want to make sure it has at least one USB-C. If your computer charges via USB-C, then you'll probably want to have two. But, what are you going to do? There's other ways around that. Okay, so what I want to do now, by the way, if you have any questions, let us know. Carol says, I use a laptop instead of a desktop. I tried to hook up 2 freestanding monitors. I can get one to work, but no matter what combination of cords I use, do I need a dongle? So most laptops are going to have, thank you, Carol, for the question. Most laptops are going to have an HDMI port on them, and that's probably what you connected to. With that, you can only run one monitor. So you would have your external monitor, and then you could use the monitor on the laptop as the second monitor. Now, if you want to have 2 or even 3 external monitors, now you're going to need a dongle. And we'll look, remind me, I'm going to look one up for you. I'll show you the ones I like. I really like the ones from Anker. Anker's a great company. A lot of you have probably heard of them. They make really good at peripherals for phones and laptops and stuff like that. Real high quality stuff, all metal construction. And they're cheap. You can get one of these dongles for $30-$40. And then it can provide you with 2 HDMI ports, so you could plug in 2 monitors. So I don't know exactly what your specifics are, and we're at the tail end of this time frame where monitors had multiple connectors like DVI and mini DV and HDMI, but pretty much they're standardizing on HDMI at this point because it's just ubiquitous now. And so that's what computers are using, and that's generally what newer monitors are using. If you have an older monitor, it might use something like a DVI connector, but DVI carries the same video signal as HDMI. So it's real easy to get a connector changer, an adapter basically. All right, so let's take a look at what is out there. Let me back out here. I was just looking at this particular laptop. So I've just done a search on bestbuy.com for Ryzen 5 laptop. Now, you might be wondering, why do I like Ryzen so much? Why do I like the AMD processors? Remember, there are 2 processor makers out there. There's AMD and Intel. Intel uses the Core i5. AMD does the Ryzen 5. The Ryzen 5, it's kind of cool. The Ryzen 5 is slightly cheaper and it's slightly faster. But the big advantage it has is the built-in graphics. Remember I told you about the system on a chip where it has the graphics and everything built into the chip? The system on a chip graphics on a Ryzen processor, orders of magnitude better than what you get on the Intel side. Now, are you going to need all of that horsepower? Not for Appraise-It Pro and doing business stuff. But it's nice to have. If you want to watch Netflix, it makes that experience a little bit better. Even if you want to do some light gaming, you can do that. I'm actually going to show you the computer that I have. I don't have it with me. I think it's downstairs. It's my work computer, and it's one of my 2 work computers. Well, it's one of my 3 work computers, one of my 2 laptop computers. But it has a Ryzen 7 processor, and I'm able to edit video and everything on it. It's not as good as my desktop, and it stutters a little bit when you really, really hammer it, but it works, and that's saying a lot. It's way better than what I would have gotten from an Intel. All right, so brands. People always ask me about brands. What do I recommend? In the mid-range, which is probably where you guys are going to be, I like Lenovo. Actually, I like Lenovo for everything. Lenovo makes the best laptops. I'm just going to come out and say that right now. Lenovo makes the best PC laptops. You could maybe make an argument that Microsoft's Surface laptops are higher build quality, but they're also way more expensive. So I think they're overpriced. So all in all, I would say Lenovo makes the best laptops for the price. Behind them, I would say HP, and then behind them, I would say Dell. Now Dell makes great high-end laptops, but their mid-ranges are kind of junk. I don't really like them. HP, but definitely Lenovo. If you've never heard Lenovo, they're based in North Carolina, here where I am. They're based in the Raleigh area. It's a Chinese company, but they bought IBM's consumer computer division back in 2005. And so they're essentially IBM computers. Matter of fact, you'll even see some of these are called IdeaPads and ThinkPads and stuff. That's the old IBM branding. They still use it. Interestingly, Lenovo also owns Motorola. So if you have a Motorola phone, you have a Lenovo Okay, so just doing this cursory search right off the bat, as far as value, if you're looking for the low end, if you're looking to get out as cheap as possible, there are two laptops right here, right off the bat. This HP laptop, touchscreen, Ryzen 5, 8 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage. Remember I told you now you're starting to see 512 creep in on the mid-ranges? This is a good example of that. $379 right now at Best Buy. That's an insanely low price. Now there are some catches here, and I'm going to go over those in just a second. Here's another one. And this laptop right here, I can highly recommend. I have this laptop. This is my work laptop. Okay. Lenovo IdeaPad. It's a 15.6 inch, does have the 10 key as both of these do. Ryzen 7, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage. On paper, spec-wise, this thing is fantastic, and it's right now. Now, it comes and goes off sale, I've noticed at Best Buy. Sometimes it's $800, and then sometimes, often, it's $500, which is what it is right now. I've even seen it go to $450 before. This is a screaming deal at $500. Yes, it's more expensive than this, but you're getting a whole lot more. I mean, $500 for this laptop, you'd be crazy not to get it. Now, that being said, it does have some caveats, both of these. Where are they going to skimp? Because they're giving you really good specs at a great price. Where are they? What's the catch? The catch is the build quality. These are both going to be plastic computers. Now, that has a little bit of an advantage in that it's lighter and it won't, it is not going to be as prone to denting, but it's going to scratch easier and it feels just a little bit less premium. Okay, now they're both touchscreens, but they don't have glass touchscreens. There's another place where they're going to skimp a little bit. They have plastic film touchscreens. Still work great, but they're a little bit, the keyboard bows a little bit. It doesn't feel great to type on, but man, you're getting some killer specs for $500. So if you're looking in the mid-range or you're looking to save money, you just want a laptop that, you want to take it on vacation, and if it dropped in the pool, it wouldn't be the end of the world. This is what you're looking for right here. Okay. That being said, the Lenovo especially doesn't feel terrible, but it's not a MacBook. So just don't go into it thinking that. Now, in the Lenovo space, if you jump up to a Yoga, you're going to gain a couple of things. Now, this is a small Yoga. It's only a 13.3, but you can find some larger Yogas. If we just do Lenovo Yoga. So if we look at the Yogas, we'll get a larger one. Now you're going to go up in price here, but you are going to gain some things. Here's a great example. This is a Lenovo Yoga 16 inch. So it's in that 15.6, 16 inch class. Core i7. So it's an Intel processor, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage. So essentially the same rough specs as that $500 laptop. Now this thing's on clearance, so I don't know. Yeah, you can still buy it. So this thing's currently on clearance. You're jumping up to $900 for the same specs. But what are you getting for that? Well, you're getting a couple things. One, you're getting a fingerprint reader. 2, glass touchscreen. 3, backlit keyboard. 4, way better keyboard. It's not going to bow. 5, all metal construction. And then the big thing you're going to get, and I wish I had my Lenovo Yoga here. I don't. It's downstairs. It's my smaller but better built laptop. It's the one I usually take on trips with me. The cool thing you can do is you can take the laptop and then you can basically turn it inside out. You can take the screen and fold it backwards. It becomes a tablet. Nobody ever uses it like that as a tablet, but you can. I have a new video out if you go to our YouTube page on how to use Appraise-It Pro in a tablet interface. It's not the best in the world. I don't want to say that Appraise-It Pro is not the best in the world. It's more a failing of Windows as a tablet. Doesn't really work all that well, but it's available. But the thing I like to do is I like to tint it. And as a matter of fact, they'll probably have a picture of it tinted here if I go in here. Yeah, this is what I like to do with it. You can tint it. Here, let me switch back over here. You can tint it, and then you can use it as basically a monitor. and then have an external keyboard and mouse. And it's kind of like using a desktop, which is kind of cool. And, or if you're like on a long plane trip, you can tent it and just, use it like that. And, watch downloaded movies and stuff like that on it. But, you're paying for that. You're paying for that great construction, that all metal construction. You're at $900, and you're going to find that on the HP side. I think it's the HP Envy is what they call it. Let's take a look at that. And this is all real time. So, these are the current prices if you want to go find these. And for instance, at Best Buy, if you see something, if I go over something, you really like it, just note that little SKU number. You can rewind this video and get the little SKU numbers. Punch that in, you'll find that exact laptop. Or just contact me. So yeah, an Envy, I mean, look at these prices. You're jumping up here for $850, Core i5, 8 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage. And you don't have a 10 key. That's a 14-inch. So here's the 16-inch. Ryzen 7, 16 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD. Slightly better specs than that other one we were looking at. But I mean, you're at $1,100. But you're at all metal construction with a backlit keyboard. So, it depends on what's important to you. Just remember, you can pay more and get better construction, but there are some really, really good deals out there. Now, you may want to go out to Amazon and buy it at Amazon. If you're going to do that, I would go into a Best Buy or a Staples first. Find one that you really like the look and feel of, and the price looks good to you. Note the model number, and then you can punch it into Amazon. If we go over to Amazon and do the same thing, we'll do a search for Ryzen 5 laptop up here. You can see down here, what do we got? We got, here's some kind of low end stuff, $379. Now, here's the thing with Amazon. You got to be careful. Sometimes you're going to be getting last year's model. And you got to make sure that it doesn't say refurb or something like that. So this one specifically says 2023 model. It is the current model, so they just haven't come out with 2024 models yet. Ryzen 5, 8 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage. It's a Lenovo IdeaPad, and you are at $329. So, you're giving up the memory and the processor. You're going down a level of processor, but I mean, $330. That's a steal. So that would be but remember, this is going to be in that mid range where you're going to have the plastic chassis and the kind of, Bowie keyboard. It's not going to feel great to type on. So just keep that in mind. All right. Well, I hope that helps you guys out. If you have any questions, feel free to jump into the chat real quick. Fire off a question to me. I'd be happy to answer it for you. Otherwise, I do want to give you my email. You can just email training@sfrep.com. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to send me some links for stuff that you find on Best Buy or stuff that you find on Staples or even Lenovo.com or whatever, Dell.com, whatever. I'll be happy to answer those questions for you. And if you are out and about and you find something, you want to send a picture to me and see what I think of it and get some guidance, feel free to text me. I would ask that you text me because I'm more apt to answer you in the moment. And that number, and once again, I'm not going to put it on screen, but I'm just going to give it to you. Just write it down. 828, area code 828. It's my business number. I don't give my business number out that much. 828-919-9082. I almost gave you my wife's phone number. 828-919-9082. I had to think about that. Thank you so much. I love giving these webinars. I love technology. I always have. I started using a computer in 1985 when I was a little kid, when I was 9, and absolutely love it. So if you guys do have any questions, let me know. And I thank you guys for showing up. Really do. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And if you are coming to ACTS in Colorado Springs, starts on Sunday, this Sunday, look for our booth. Myself and our new CEO, Remington Jones, will be there. We'll be happy to talk to you. And otherwise, we'll be sending some photos out on our social media so you can kind of see it. And of course, we're going to be in Vegas at all the shows in Vegas this fall. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week and a great weekend coming up. Thanks a lot. Okay, you know what? Carol reminded me I didn't give you the dongle, so I'm just gonna go and come back and just do it that way. Hopefully you're still on, Carol. I think everybody's still on. Well, hopefully you're still on, Carol. Let's see. Just let me know if you're still on, Carol. Let's switch. There, let me put that down. Let's switch over to the screen over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is we're going to do Anchor USB-C. Anchor USB-C dongle. This should give it to us. Here it is. Wow, that thing's come down in price. This only has one USB-C on it, or one HDMI, I believe, on it. So this wouldn't be the one you'd want to get. I don't think so. 4K. No, that's not what we want. We want one with two HDMIs. Here it is. Here it is. $40. You can't go wrong there. So this one right here. What would be the best way to, here, I'll tell you what I'll do. We'll do, I'm going to put it in the chat. I think it'll let me do that. Let me see if it lets me do that, Carol. Will it let me do that? No, it's not going to let me do it. Won't let me do it. Okay. Carol, if you, well, let me do any link, or is that one just too long? Let's try it again. Oh, this might work. Hey, cool, it did. Okay, so I just put it in the link into the chat for you there, Carol. This one has two HDMI ports on it, and then you see where it says PDN, that's power delivery in. That's so that you can connect your charger to it, and it'll charge your laptop while you're using everything. So what this one's going to do is this one's going to give you two HDMIs, a memory card reader, Ethernet, another, this is USB-C in for power delivery, and then two regular USB-A. They call it USB-A. They're old style USB 3.0. So all of that for $40. Get it. I mean, no brainer. It's gonna, that's what you're gonna need. And you don't have to worry about, like having the video card necessary to like run multiple monitors. This thing does all the heavy lifting. It does all the work for you. So you can, in here, they even show it here where you can have, let's put that back up. Can I make that bigger? Yeah. So this shows you can do mirror mode. You can do multiple desktops. So you could have, with this one, you could use your laptop screen and then plus two external screens. So I think that'd be exactly what you're looking for. Carol also says, can you hook up two dongles onto a laptop? If you have two USB-C ports on your laptop, then yes, but that's a little rare, especially in the mid-range. Some high-end ones might have it, but no, yeah, there's no reason you can't. And the cool thing is that USB-C has a direct pipeline to your computer's graphics. So they're doing work outside. If you hear that, you probably can't, but it's annoying. But it has a data pipeline directly into the computer's graphics. So it's going to be nice and fast. You're not going to have any lagginess to it. And like I said, all you have to do when you come back into the office is have your setup with the little dongle, have your external keyboard, your external mouse plugged into it, and your charger plugged into it, and your monitors. And then that way, when you come into the office, you put your laptop down on the desk, you plug that thing in, it starts charging your laptop, and then it activates your keyboard, your mouse, your monitors, everything just magically starts working. So these are basically replaced docking stations. Hope that answers your question. All right. Okay. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me, training@sfrep.com. Hope you guys have a good one. Thanks a lot.